Thank you very much for coming to this session. We've got 4 speakers here today. First is Chris Evans, and he's going to speak about getting out of the lecture. Fantastic. Thanks very much.
Thank you for the introduction. Hello. So a little bit about myself before I get into my presentation. I'm a teaching fellow at University College London. I work in the Interaction Centre, also known as UCLIC, and I do research into interactive learning and social media for teaching. And the research that I'm going to present you today was a collaboration with Professor Anna Cox, who I'm very grateful to. And basically I'm going to be talking about how we can use interactivity to enhance learning in higher education. So I'm talking about university education. And here's roughly what I'm going to cover. I'm going to start by talking about a traditional method of teaching, the lecture. I'm going to talk about what's different about students these days compared to the past. My model of teaching is the flipped classroom. Most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with this notion. I'll be talking about that. How we might use interactive technology to enhance the experience of learners. And I'm going to be telling you what students think of our interventions in one of our courses and some of the challenges that we face, particularly at the kind of institution where I work. So I want to start by talking about conventional lectures. Here's a conventional lecture. It may be very familiar to you. Here's the expert at the front of the room. Here are the learners listening. Some of them are taking notes. Don't know if you can see it, but the ones at the back, some of them are asleep, so I'm sure this is a familiar scenario to you. And this format of teaching has been around for quite some time. In fact, I want you to tell me, how long do you think we've had university lectures? Or when was the first university lecture? Does anyone know? When do you think what year was the first university lecture? I'll give you a clue, it was in the first university. So if you happen to know. Anyone like to guess? No volunteers? Okay, I can tell you. Go on. 1500, okay. Not quite as long as that. The first lecture, or the first university was 1088. It was the University of Bologna. So we're talking about nearly 1,000 years for university lectures. Here are the characteristics of a university lecture. It happens at a particular time. I hate the 9 o'clock on Monday and the 7 o'clock on Friday. It happens in a particular place, timetabled by the institution. It happens at a fixed pace. We use a one-size-fits-all method chosen by the lecturer. Predominantly, it's a teacher-centered method of teaching. And what I want to talk about is what I refer to as 3 revolutions that might affect the relevance of the lecture for today. The first one is the information revolution. Students have unprecedented access to information. There's plenty of material out there about how things work. Second revolution is the learning revolution. In the last few decades, we've changed our understanding of how students learn. The model on which lectures were based is the information transfer model. The idea here is that the job of the teacher is to transfer information out of their heads into the heads of the learners. So the job is information transfer. And under this model, learners are portrayed as kind of like blank cassette tapes, or if you don't remember cassette tapes, formatted USB flash drives. But the most dominant model of understanding how people learn today is the Constructivist model. And under the Constructivist model, the process of learning is an interactive process between the learner and the teacher. It's a two-way process. But it's also an interactive process between the learner and the world, because learners don't come as blank books or blank cassette tapes. They have some prior knowledge, and they have to take what they're being told and fit it with what they already know. So the process of learning becomes the process of selecting, organizing, and integrating information with what you already know. And the third revolution is students today. If you look at students of the past, in 1980, the top 2% of the population would go to university. They would go to university instead of getting a job, so they would postpone the process of employment for 3 or 4 years. Often, not always, but often they were motivated by a love of the subject. And many of the students were funded by a grant from the government. And if you looked in their satchels, they might have one of these. If we contrast that with the student of today, the government aims that 50% of the population should go to university. And they go to university often in addition to getting a job, because many students need to get part-time employment and need to fund their education. They're motivated by necessity. They need to have a degree to get a job, or they need to have a degree in order to get the job that they want, and they're funded by debt. If you look in their satchels, they're likely to have one of these, or maybe one of these. So students of today are very different from the students of the past. What I want to do was find out about students at my institution, UCL. So what I did is I got the students to write some survey questions, and they surveyed themselves, and they put together this video to show the results. And I thought I would share with you a vision of UCL students today. So, most students check their mobile phones between 2 and 5 times during your lecture. My thanks to the interaction design students who put that together. So students of today are different, and what I want to do is talk about our attempts to enhance the learning experience of students at UCL. We have a particular problem at UCL because it's in the centre of London. We have no space, we can't expand. So lecture spaces are a premium. We often have students sitting on stairs because there aren't enough seats for them. So we're looking at ways in which we could use technology to improve their experience. And what we did is we used a postgraduate course, an MSc in Human Computer Interaction. This was a module on persuasive games. They're games designed to change your attitudes or behaviour about things. They would have 2 or 3 hours of lectures every week for 10 weeks for this, and there were about 40 students enrolled on the course. And what we did is we introduced 5 interventions which helped us flip their learning. Here are the 5 interventions. I'm going to go into a bit more detail in a second, but they are interactive e-lectures, weekly online assessments, social media, quizzes, and a buzzer game. And I can start with the interactive lectures. This was the core part. What we did is we replaced 1 hour of their learning with an online lecture. This is an interactive lecture. There are non-interactive lectures. You might have seen some of these. At UCL, we use LectureCast. I think this is Echo 360, where we record lectures. This is not interactive. We just record the screen and record the lecturer speaking.
We will now begin.
Here's another non-interactive lecture. Does anyone know who this is?
Of statistics, which is really a way to understand
Everyone's
and
very
get
quiet
our head
this afternoon.
around data.
No?
Statistics
So this is
is
Salman
all
Khan from the
about-
Khan Academy. Again, a
as we begin
non-interactive
our
lecture. You
journey
just sit
to
there and you watch him talk about, in that case, statistics. These are the interactive e-lectures that we introduced. They break down the lecture into a series of topics and subtopics. The students can control the order in which they go through the material, the pace at which they go through the material. There are interactive self-assessment questions where they can check their learning. There are embedded videos and a few other features that I don't have time to mention. So one of the advantages of the interactive e-lecture is they can study it when they want, where they want, at the pace that suits them, so they can adapt it to their individual learning needs. They can use their own process if they're familiar with things, and often we have some students who've done some of these things before, then they can skip some material, or if it's all new to them, they can spend longer on it. In other words, the interactive e-lectures are a learner-centered method of teaching. So interactivity is very important to me. So what do I mean by interactive? I mean that the system responds to input from the learner. And I've done several studies into what the effect of introducing interactivity is in e-lectures. In this study, we found that students would perform 12% better in deep learning tests if the e-lectures were interactive. In other studies, we had one where the increase was 10%, another one where they're 18%. So the performance of students is actually better if you make the lectures interactive. So that was one of the 5. The second one was online assessment. We had a pass-fail grading assessment where we would ask the student to answer a question. It was an open question. And either their answer was good enough or it wasn't. They would get 100% or they would get nothing. It was weekly. The third one was social media. We used Slack. Does anyone here use Slack? Put your hand up. Okay, quite a few people use Slack. We introduced the use of Slack. And we used Kahoot for quizzes. And we introduced these buzzers. We had to divide people into groups of 10. We gave each group a buzzer. The buzzers make different noises, and we gave them a series of questions. And they would press the buzzer, and the first people to get it right would get the point. I'm sure you're familiar with this idea. I want to show you a Kahoot, or run a Kahoot with you. So I'm going to need your devices. If you're not familiar with Kahoot, you're going to get 3 questions, and there are 20 seconds to answer each question. To join in, all you need to do is visit this website, kahoot.it, and enter this PIN number. You'll be asked to enter your name. It'd be useful to have a meaningful name to see how well you do, but you can make one up if you want to remain anonymous. So I'll wait for a few people to join. Is that Jeremy Clarkson? Welcome. I'm Chris Evans. Does that mean I've taken over your show? Okay, 32 we've got so far. Kick things off. 3 questions if you're ready. Pin's still there if you want to join. You can still join. When was the first university lecture given? Do you remember? If you think it's 1988, you press the red button, the triangle. 1958, blue. 1908, orange. 1088, green. 27 of you that said 1088, absolutely correct. University of Bologna, well done, good memory. Well done, Chris R, for being the fastest finger. Second question, if you add interactivity to a lecture, an e-lecture, how much does it affect the scores? If you think it's 0%, it's the red triangle. If you think it's minus 12%, it's the red diamond. Okay, congratulations those people who said 12%. Zav, I don't know how to pronounce that. Congratulations. Last question. I've introduced some new technologies. Here are 4 of them. Which one do you think the students valued the most? Was it e-lectures, weekly online assessments, the buzzer game, or Kahoot quizzes? Have a guess. Okay. E-lectures is the favourite. It turns out to be the online assessments. So that's my Kahoot, back to my presentation. So this is what the students actually thought of these interventions. So what we did is gave them a survey with some Likert-style questions and an open-ended question. The outside the class interventions, the e-lectures, the majority of people thought they were a valuable contribution. Interestingly, the number of people that disagreed is higher than we're used to. I've been doing this for 7 years now, and normally the number of people that disagree is much lower. The reasons for this, I suspect, are we had a greater disconnect between the e-lectures and what they did in the practical sessions. The online assessment, 74% agreed, so this was the most valuable one. One of the things they liked about it was every week it made them reflect on the material in the e-lectures. Social media Slack was valuable. Majority of people agreed. There was a lot of people who didn't find it particularly useful. Not entirely sure why. Inside the class, Kahoot, 68% liked Kahoot. They found this particularly good for making them review what they'd done in the e-lectures. The buzzer game, I was very disappointed. I thought this was going to be really successful. It was a lot of fun, and 61% didn't think it was valuable at all. We did some inferential statistics, and we found that there was a correlation between valuing Kahoot and overall satisfaction, also between the e-lectures and the buzzer game. There was actually a correlation, so all is not lost. 3 minutes. This is the qualitative feedback from the students. The e-lectures provide nice materials to start the class. The use of external videos in the e-lectures is amazing. Remote learning is good. Unfortunately, we were not able to discuss the e-lecture more. Again, this was the disconnect between the e-lecture and the practical class, where perhaps we could have done more to make connections between the two. The weekly online assessments force you to synthesize your knowledge. Kahoot can motivate doing the e-lecture before the class. Which brings me neatly to the end. Thank you very much for listening. Any questions for Chris? Got 2 minutes. Just wait for the microphone.
Hi Chris, do you have any sort of evidence that any of these things have an impact on attainment in summative assessments?
So with the e-lectures, yes, that's the research that I presented you. So I've been looking into the effect of e-lectures for about 7 years now, and it increases the performance in tests in both retention and transfer, so both surface learning memory and also in deep learning. The others? Yet to be investigated. Any other questions? I missed out one of my conclusion slides, so perhaps if there's a second I can... You have 1.5 minutes. Yep. So one of the problems we had at UCL, which I just wanted to mention, is that people at UCL are hired because they're experts, and the paradigm shift is away from experts to facilitators. So one of the problems we have is what to do with people who think of themselves as leading experts in the field. How can you turn them into facilitators? In other words, how can you connect research with teaching? And that's, I think, one of the challenges that we've got for the next decade to solve. Okay.
Just one quick question. How did you create the e-lectures and how did you create the assessments?
So the e-lectures were done in Storyline, which I did myself. and articulated things. The company behind Storyline. Storyline 2 we used, and the multiple choice questions. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but there's the Kahoot questions, but we also had the weekly assessments which were done in Moodle as our virtual learning environment, just open-ended questions which we then marked by hand. Okay, thank you.
So just whilst the others get set up, can I just ask whether Stephen and Jamie are here? They're our final speakers of this session. No, okay. It's good to know. Okay, so moving on to Chris and Graham.
Well, exactly, we'll just double check that the sound is going through. There we go, make sure it's there. Oh, it's got to go that way. It's got to.
Great. Right, well, thanks very much for coming this afternoon, everyone. Good to see so many people here. My name is Graham McAlerney from the University of Sheffield. I'm very pleased to be joined by my dear colleague, Mr. Chris Clow, who's the manager of our creative media service, which we're going to talk to you a little bit about now. So we'll give you a bit of background, and then we're going to, Chris is going to unpack a little bit more about what the creative media service actually does, how it works, some of the journeys we've been on. My job was really just to give a bit of background, and this follows on quite nicely from what our previous presenter has been talking about. So why have we got into doing what we're doing here? So we come from a very strong tradition of using video multimedia resources within our university to do a fairly conventional kind of transmission-based teaching. About 15 years ago, driven by some thinking in our own team and from other academics, we started to get into the whole field of student-generated media. And of course, the pedagogical rationale for that, again, following up from what Chris is saying, is very much based in constructivism. It's based around Bloom's taxonomy, and this is the fundamental idea that in getting students to be producers rather than consumers of video material, they can use these journeys, these experiences as ways of constructing their own knowledge about a subject in a whole new level of depth and so on. And this started as a fairly niche, specialised kind of activity, and I should emphasise that all the students we're talking about here are students who do not come from a conventional or vocational media-based courses. So we're talking about people studying subjects such as law and Hispanic studies. And what we actually did was we do very specialist ad hoc projects, and we closely supervise students. And as I said, it was all a bit ad hoc, all a bit niche, but it became more and more popular. So it became apparent to us that what we needed to do was to be able to find a better way of embedding this, a better way of supporting this. And what that then took us on, to quote the theme of the conference, was a journey whereby we've gone from niche to what is becoming more of a normal. So I'm going to hand over to Chris now, but first going to ask the question, well, what do we mean by creative media?
From the University of Sheffield, KICS Creative Media.
Hello and welcome to KICS Creative Media. We're based here in the Diamond.
We provide equipment, resources and training for every University of Sheffield student and staff member.
So come on in, take a look around and find out what training we can offer for you. All of our services are based here on level 4 of the Diamond, and all of our equipment and rooms need to be booked in advance on My Rooms and Resources. We have 8 media recording and editing booths, 2 edit suites and a fully equipped 3-camera TV studio. Each of our editing booths comes fully equipped with a professional recording microphone that records straight into the iMac. To log into any of our creative media computers, you will need a CCM account. These can be requested by filling out the form on the Creative Media website. All of our Macs, both in the media booths and here in the edit suite, come pre-installed with a range of Adobe Creative Cloud apps, and you can work on these 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The TV studio opened in January 2016 and is available 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. It has a fully equipped green screen and green floor, as well as black and white wraparound curtains and a full lighting rig. The studio can be used for presentations, dramas, interviews, pretty much anything really. The 3 cameras are remote controlled, and over the main camera is a fully working auto cue system, so no need to learn all your lines or have a piece of paper in front of you.
Twice a week we hold workshops to help students improve their skills and knowledge. These cover everything from basic video production to photography and image manipulation.
So I'm going to stop it just there. So that's one of our promotional videos about creative media, but we didn't just get there overnight. It took us roughly around 6 years to get there. So how did we get there? We actually first started off in a building called the Information Commons back in 2011. And in that building, it was just myself that set it up, and we had one production room, an edit suite of 4 iMacs, and a very, very small pool of equipment loans. We also supported, as Graham said, a very niche kind of area within the universities. It kind of stemmed out of a Centre for Excellence, whereby they worked heavily within the Faculty of Arts and Humanities and Social Sciences. And we were very keen to broaden that out, and our aim was to be able to offer our services to every student at the university, no matter what degree they're doing. So we went from there to the Diamond as of 2015. It was roughly around £130,000 investment, capital investment. It required an increase of staff provision, and on average, it was 5 times larger than our service, which it was in 2011-2012. Our equipment stock also grew heavily. We have a huge, wide range of equipment available for students to use, and we also operate a dedicated help desk for drop-in services and to loan and issue the equipment. But our fundamental aim is to help students to become creative, and we do that in many ways, and in particular through our training. We offer over 16 different types of sessions, different sessions regarding things like post-production, pre-production, video editing, animation, storyboarding, etc. But in particular, we work with modules, so we often get the module leaders coming to us, and we have a dialogue with them to find out what they're wanting their students to be able to do, what is the aim of the assessment, what medium is they wanted to do, what time frame have they got, and we sit down with them to work out the best way in which we can help support their students in to be able to not only learn how to produce video, but obviously to actually have the expertise on hand and the equipment available and the knowledge and the resources accessible to them. We've also been running weekly open sessions to all students, and these go from very basic introductions to quite high advanced areas. And then roughly about over 3 years ago, we started working on building up online courses. We worked with student ambassadors to find out the ways, and so my objective for that student ambassador was saying, my aim is so that every student at the university knows about creative media, and that their student experience at university is better as a result. What can we do about it? And one of the things she came up with was actually to make an online course for all, to come together for students to not only collaborate, because they collaborate part of their modules with the students they already know, but with people across different disciplines, different kind of courses, different degrees, different years. And we've been running that on our VLE, and up until 2 years ago, we've been doing it so it's here accredited. So students from the actual, in terms of completing it, will get a here accreditation award. So in 2016, we ran that course, and we had 111 people signed up, and we had 21% success rate in terms of they actually completing the course. The course contained various different tasks that they had to complete, interact with discussions, fill out different quizzes as well. Last year we ran it again, and 142 signed up, and it had a 33% completion rate as well. So it's going up. We are limiting it as well at this moment, just purely because of staff resources. So even though any student can do it, we're literally having to stop the amount of people that can do it, because we need to make sure that we can also give the time to students to be able to then to comment and to give feedback on what they're actually doing to help them learn. So 142 signed up within a matter of, I think it was 5 hours. So open and close in 5 hours, and we had to stop it there. We've also put a lot of emphasis on support. We've produced a range of user guides. Our aim is that our resources are 24/7 accessible. Our media booths are open all the time. Our edit suites are open all the time. Students can borrow equipment, take it away with them, bring it back 3 days later. They can book up in advance. So it's very keen that our user guides, both printable, online, videos, are as good as it can be for them. We offer a drop-in service, tips, and appointment as well. So students can contact us saying, can I meet with you? I've got this idea, etc., etc. As a result, the demand on our service has grown. Over the last 12 months, we've had over 7,500 edit suite stations bookings. We've trained over 2,000 students. We've had over 200 TV bookings in the TV studio. We've loaned over 13,000 items of equipment, and we've delivered over 30 training for over 30 modules. Next year, that should be going up to over 50 modules in which we're going to support. You can't really see this, unfortunately, the graph, but what it shows is that we've actually got data about from which departments use our service, and it's every department. Doesn't matter how small it is, every department across the university who's actually using our service. And the top 5 are management, mechanical engineering, biomedical science, electronic and electrical engineering, and I think it's civil and structural engineering. Not the arts and humanities, not social sciences. So we have come really far, and the people who are using it where we wanted to be, they're still using it, but areas of other departments are really embracing it, which is really great. So we know staff and students do use our service, and it's very keen for us to get feedback from students through questionnaires in workshops to find out, the way in which we deliver our workshops, are students finding it useful? Has it got enough content? Is the actual balance between practical and theoretical just right for them? Is it too long, too short? Do you think the skills in which they learnt they're going to use outside of the actual module which they're set? Are they going to use it in the future? And it's all very, very, very positive. So we know we're going on the right direction, and we know the demand's there. What we're still trying to do is improve, develop, go with it. It's grown. It's been very ephemeral. It's very natural in terms of where we've come to and where we can still go. And we ask students for their ideas for change. We put through the idea scales, and people can actually put ideas, and other students can vote. And then we look at what's the best ones, the top ones, and then work out how we can implement that. For example, more microphones. So this actually is happening today, should be completed. We're having a podcast studio being installed, so to enable students to produce higher quality audio recordings. That's what we're missing at the moment, and that's as a result of students recognising what they want, and obviously we can actually hopefully give it to them. So what I want to do is just quickly show you a few examples of some student work.
Just 2 young kids on the scene, a race car driving in the streets. Do you remember? Fast and loose, blowing bubbles out the roof, drinking fountain Mountain Dew in Daddy's Mustang. I never wanted you to stop loving me, but my head got...
Sugar is an important part of our diet. Foods like sweets and fizzy drinks are some of the first things we think about when it comes to sugary foods, but too much can have significant negative impact on our health. But what about the way we start our day?
8 out of 10 parents believe that their children are having a healthy breakfast, but do we know just how much sugar is in our favourite breakfast cereals?
The results may shock you.
Frank illustrated absolute and relative position using 2 different worlds. According to the standard neoclassical economic model of choice, which holds that utility depends on the absolute amount of consumption, the correct answer would be world A. However, most people vote for world B, where the absolute house size is smaller, but their relative house size is larger. Solnick and Hemingway also replicated this study and found similar results, And Able, 1990, supports relative positioning, stating that people have the desire to keep up with the Joneses.
So there's just a few examples. There's a lot of examples, and what we also try and do is ask students if they're willing to submit their material to actually for us to be able to then help promote and also give ideas for other academics and modules in ways in which they can work. As you can see there, because the material there is produced from students from management, animal plant sciences, geography. Those students never came to university with any media-related skills. They're not doing a media-related degree, but the kind of the quality in which they're producing and the content in which they're being able to carry across through the medium of video in particular is amazing. So the lessons that we've learned is that training large numbers of cohorts, we need to change the way in which we deliver it. We can't do it in small, lovely workshops. We have to change the way in we do that flip style kind of teaching. We need to also, the balance of practical and theoretical, how we can then look at which points within the session to break it up, to give the students the ability to digest it, to go out there, to actually experience it, to come back, to ask questions, etc., because time is obviously very important to them. Not only that is that for it is, at the moment for assessment, up until that point, students were actually submitting their material on various different platforms. And one of the areas that we was always struggling with is what we can really advise for our academics and students in particular about what platform they need to use to make it easier for everyone involved with the student journey and the academics to be able to upload their material and for it to be assessed. So I'm going to pass back over to Graham to talk about how we've delivered that.
Thank you very much, Chris. Yes, so this now broadens out to a slightly wider institution view because this fits into some initiatives we've been doing a little bit more broadly. So did you say, Chris, that this image was linked through? Oh, can't get through. All right, we'll come on to this. What we'll do in a moment, we're going to show you something. We've just spent an amount of time moving over to a new platform which has been provided for us by Kaltura, who you may be familiar with. One of the nice things about Kaltura is it plugs directly into Blackboard and now makes it possible for students to submit assignments in the same way that they would perhaps a normal conventional document type assignment. It plugs directly into the Blackboard assignment handler. And that's really important for us because it then means that in fact the submitted work goes into a robust and secure system. Is also then within, if you like, an ecosystem which enables us to reuse and repurpose that content later on. So we think it's really important that our students' work can be showcased. I think nothing speaks of the excellence of your institution louder than showing the fantastic work that one student does. So that's really important to us. Going forward, it also fits into a broader institutional strategy which a number of us have been involved in leading over the last year, which is an institution-wide aim to maximise the use of audio-visual media to support the university across all its key strategic areas. So that for us is learning and teaching, of course, but being a very strong research university, that means now meeting the demands of our researchers and new ways that researchers can disseminate their research. But we're also, as a civic university, we take our public engagement strategy very seriously, so it gives us a new way of doing that as well. So that's where it's going for us in the bigger picture, and we're just kind of rolling that forward from this academic year, so it's quite exciting times. We'll certainly see how well it's working when we get back to Sheffield in the next few weeks when usage really starts to pick up. So I think for us that's pretty much it. There's future challenges. Do you want to just have a quick look at? Okay.
So in terms of, just quickly just to note the future challenges, I'm sure many other people are finding as well that capital, and we're getting lots of cuts across the university for various different reasons, and that is one of our challenges. The demand on the service is still growing, but we're obviously having to make cuts and also restrictions on capital, staff resources, so we need to find ways, can we still not only deliver the services we have to the same standards, but can we still develop and can we still actually enhance the service? And really, if you've got any more questions, I know obviously there's a lot to actually we're trying to get into this 20 minutes. Please do speak to us afterwards. But from our presentation, that's it. If you've got any questions, that would be great. We can hopefully answer them.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you. Any
Yes, sorry, it's the furthest point from you.
Okay.
Someone at the back as well?
I didn't, sorry, I didn't see that.
Oh, Chris as well. Sorry, Chris.
We'll start from the back and work your way forward.
Absolutely.
Hello, I was wondering, with all the videos that are being created, are the students keeping the intellectual property to those videos, or are they something that would ever consider being sort of sub-licensed to third-party publishers at all? Because there's some very good quality things that obviously directly reflect module requirements.
That's a very interesting and potentially quite a contentious subject. So, up until quite recently, like many universities, students at the University of Sheffield had to sign a disclaimer to say that anything they did in their studies became the intellectual property of the university. Now, a couple of years ago, that had been challenged and has been challenged at other institutions. So at the moment, unless you're on something that's a directly sponsored kind of industrial research project, more or less, the students is their own copyright. So in fact, even just us putting it on a student-hosted environment and putting it forward as work of the university, they have to license their rights to us. But the thought that that might be followed up actually by a commercial interest, I have to say, is a bit of a new one. I'm very glad you mentioned it because I don't have an answer for that, but it's something that we would need to think about. We know who the creators of the content are because they're submitted electronically from now on. So, yeah, we'd have to look at that actually. That is very interesting though.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Chris Rogers at the front? No, it's not. It's oh, no, it's, Sarah.
You're just choosing, aren't you?
Yeah, no, just what it makes, yeah.
Thank you, that was really interesting. I was interested to know actually how much you had to fight with the managers, the senior management in your organisation to help support this move towards creative media. That can't have been done as a small voice, the scaling up.
I feel I would say privileged because there hasn't been any fight. It's been very supported from day one. There is the opportunity to do it, the platform to do it. In terms of the diamond, I never put anything forward for that to actually have what is a third of the actual sort of floor space of the actual level 4 of the diamond for creative media. It came from the top saying we recognise this as a growing service and we want to have it in our new flagship building. So really, it's been great that they've recognised that, they've backed us and they've continued to give us the capital to do it. It's now the fight possibly now is how do we still maintain that and continue to develop it. I've not had that fight just yet, but yeah, it may happen. Yeah, good luck, exactly, yes. I've got stats to kind of back me up now, which is always good.
One final question, perhaps?
Hi, I was interested, you were saying that the production values weren't necessarily what was being assessed for many of the projects. Was there any ambiguity as far as the students were concerned or as far as the lecturers were concerned in marking what that actually meant in practice?
So from a creative media point of view, in terms of the staff, we're not there to tell academics how it's going to be assessed and what grading it should be. We're there to advise, but we also try to liken it to how they would assess an essay. You know, in terms of is the content going across? Is the medium which they're using the most appropriate for their target audience, for instance? Is there anything within that so in terms of the production value, is the lighting, the right? Is the sound quality? Those don't really kind of come into it. It's more about has the message come across?
Something we find, and this is a challenge we've been looking at for a while, and how do you actually assess media creation by non-vocational media students? So if they were film students, we could say, yeah, your sound quality is not good enough, your lighting's wrong, your camera work's not right. We can't do that with these. A very common approach is to have as a proxy to the assessment, to the media piece, is to get the students to write a reflective piece, and that's an opportunity to surface some of the things that Chris has spoken. So what were the aims and the objectives of the module? It may have been, your objective is to make a 3-minute popular science programme that would be suitable to go on the one show. How have you tackled the topic? How have you identified the correct audience? Copyright is also very important, of course. And basically, really, in a nutshell, is has the media item met its stated aim? And if it's to say my objective is to teach you about, the biochemistry of photosynthesis, for example, well, does it actually reach that target? And that's what we do, really. But reflecting on the journey is a very important point, because that actually recapitulates the value of the journey for the student themselves, I think, as well. Thank you very much.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thank you, Chris.
So Claire is our third and unfortunately final speaker of this session today. The other speakers aren't available, but Claire's going to lead us away in some interesting work around immersive environments and CSI. Fantastic.
While we're just setting up, I have got a small interactive element at the end, but it's on Nearpod. So if anybody would like to get their devices out, and you can even just Google Nearpod and it will let you sign in, and I will give you the code to access everything in a second. And hopefully the internet connection works, because it was having a few issues earlier. So this is the code that you need to put in if you have now got Nearpod up, and it will also go through my slides as we go, and I'll explain a little bit more about it. My name is Claire Rhodes, and I'm a principal lecturer at the University of Portsmouth, and I'm also the programme area for the undergraduate courses within the Institute of Criminal Justice Studies. I am presenting this morning on behalf of my colleague, or this afternoon even, on behalf of my colleague Helen Earwaker, who unfortunately couldn't be here. And she is a lecturer, but she's the unit coordinator for the unit that we have trialled all of this in. Has everybody put the code in? I want to put the code. People looking. I can get the code back up for you in a second. Just to give you a little bit of background, we're one of the largest criminology departments in the country. So I currently manage and coordinate 6 full-time undergraduate campus-based degree programs. So we have approximately 2,000 students on those. And each of those are interlinked. So some of the students will do individual units, like this crime scene-based unit that I'm going to talk to you about. And all students will cover criminology and criminal justice units. So we have some that are really large and some that are slightly smaller. The problem that has come with that is we also have distance learning students, we have postgraduate students, and as a department, we have a lot of staff. We all work together quite well, I think, but the students seem to fall into silos, and they seem to put lectures in one pile, seminars in another, different units in different piles, and they don't tend to connect them. That's what we find anyway. So as a department, and as part of my role, I wanted to try and bring together the cohesion across the units and how the students learn. And that's how this project started, really. The unit that we have trialled this in is a level 4 introductory unit, and it has approximately 150 students on it per year. And we're also are now going to turn this into one of our distance learning units. So we're going to look at how we can progress that. It's delivered by various academics and various operational police staff. So at the university we have a unique partnership with Hampshire Constabulary. They are based on campus, and some of their staff are honorary lecturers. So they also deliver on this lecture programme. So not only do we have to coordinate the students and university staff, we also have external people that we need to coordinate, teach on the units as well. In order to make our whole programme interactive, this whole idea started with an augmented reality video, which is called Operation Matilda. I haven't got the video to play for you today because with the internet connection it doesn't work very well. I tried it and decided not to. But essentially, this video brought the whole university together. It just started as an idea, sat down with some colleagues and our amazing team of online course developers. We had to write a script, but it covers a whole crime scene from the very beginning all the way through to the court process. It involved drama students as the actors. It involves police staff as well. It involved the law students in the courtroom. We have psychology students. We have journalism students. So the script is written in a way that it can include lots of different departments. We can take elements out of it and use them in different ways. And we brought lots of different staff across the university together. So it was interdisciplinary. And we wanted to use that as a blended learning tool. So originally we were just going to use it in some of our seminars and maybe show in some of our lectures and use for part of our assessment. But over the past year it has grown into something a bit more than that, which is very similar to some of the interactive things that you've heard about in the first talk. And Neopause decided not to work. Just go back. Never worry. I'll just carry on. So, it's missing a slide. Don't worry about it. So in order to deliver what we wanted to do, we decided to use Neopod, which hopefully some of you are logged into. Our VLE is also Moodle, so we have incorporated a lot of interactive things through Moodle, but we've now tried to bring them together with Neopod. So Neopod allows you to upload your PowerPoint slides, so you don't have to completely rewrite them, and it also allows you to be interactive. So we can take clips of Operation Matilda, we can add sort of the questions that you've seen with Kahoot, it does it all on Neopod for you, and the students can be more interactive in the lectures. So if you imagine a lecture of 150 students, we can actually get them to work in small groups and collaborate with each other, which hopefully I'll be able to show you at the end. We can also get them to draw around crime scenes, we can get them to pinpoint the evidence, and that's why we decided to go with Moodle and Neopod. And as some of you will see, as you go through the lectures, it also slides through at the same time, and you can keep the lecture once you finish, it stores it in your library. So that's why we decided to do it. It's also free, which is a bonus, because obviously at the university it's hard to get money out of people for things. So everything that we've done was done on the goodwill and expertise of people within the university, so it hasn't cost us any money, it's just cost us time. We have found that with the Moodle activities, when we've designed them, so they go to the lecture during the week, we do the interactive stuff on Neopod, and then we design the activities on Moodle throughout, so they link to the lectures and they link to the seminars, so it's the flipped learning idea again. So they take away the stuff from Neopod, they then go home, go to the coffee shop, do their group work, watch clips of Operation Matilda online, they can answer questions, they can prepare their crime scene notes, they can prepare their court files, they can work on the storylines around it, and then in the seminar classes they can come back and we can be more interactive with them again and try and find out what they've come up with and how we're going to progress that towards their assessments. We use competitions and quizzes in the lectures, so everything is delivered online as well. We're also trialling live stream so that the students don't actually have to be in the classroom, because now we're also finding, I'm sure it's the same for quite a lot of you, but we have quite a lot of students and trying to fit them all in a lecture theatre is quite difficult. We're now having to double or triple teach in some cases, so we'd like to try and get rid of that. And the students seem to be quite happy with the live stream idea, so I'll let you know how that goes. We also wanted to try and include the industry input, so we now have other partners in other industries. So we have different special effects teams that want to come in, and we've now, through Neopod and Moodle and the lectures, we allow them to have online discussions with the students remotely. And this is for the campus-based students, not just the distance learning students. So we've tried to combine that with all of our lectures. Because I didn't play the video, these are just some clips of Operation Matilda. I don't know if you can see those, but if you have it on the iPod in front of you, you should be able to see them. essentially, you need to know what has happened, because with the interactive bit that we're going to do in a second, you need to know the story behind it. So it was originally called Per Dorothy, but we thought that was a bit mean, so we've called it Operation Matilda. But a lady called Dorothy was found unconscious in her house. She's been taken to hospital. She made an allegation of rape against her nephew, and subsequently, when she's released from hospital, she dies. Okay, so poor Dorothy has been through quite a lot. There is obviously a police investigation that goes around that. The nephew's found not guilty in the end, but that leaves the question as to who actually did it, and that's part of the thing that the students have to discuss and all the legal complications around that. So that's the basic premise. You need to remember that for a minute. And this is just a basic example of some of the Moodle quizzes. So is everybody aware of Moodle quizzes? Who does Moodle stuff? Yeah, so you can do it on Blackboard as well, it just looks slightly different. We use these Moodle quizzes throughout the year, so this is a year-long unit. We get them to answer the questions. They can do that as summative or formative assessment. It depends what you want to do, so it's very flexible. And what we have actually done to help encourage student engagement, and I'd be interested to find your views on this, is after each lecture and each seminar and each activity, we don't release the next part of the unit until they've done the questions. So it encourages student engagement because they have to do it before they can get the next lot of learning material, and we haven't currently had a problem with that, but I might ask you later what you feel about that, if anybody has any different opinions. So before we go into the quick interactive bit, the impact that we find, apart from the time constraints on us as academic staff and my team of online course developers, it has taken a lot of time, but we feel that the benefits have outweighed that because it has been valuable to other departments within the university. The impact is that the students haven't complained as much about group work, because we know that's an age-old problem. They seem to want to interact with each other more. They seem much happier with the team sort of ethos and the work that they do. We have seen that the students are attending more lectures. They have had an improvement in marks, although obviously that could just be the year group because it's only been running for a year, so we're not really sure if that's down to the online immersive learning. They are able to apply the theory from the lectures to the practical classes, and we're also now seeing more links between their criminology units and the crime scene unit and how everything goes together, which was the point of everything in the first place. But because of that, I'm now working with other colleagues to roll this out into the criminology and the criminal justice units so that we can try and blend everything together. And the students seem very happy about the immersive nature. They feel that they're getting more interaction with us as academics and practitioners, and they feel that they are more part of a community. So for the distance learning students that don't necessarily come to campus all the time, they also feel that they're more part of a community when they get involved in this sort of thing. So if you are on Nearpod, I have got a little interactive activity for you. So as I've given you the story of our Per Dorothy for Operation Matilda, you should be able to see a map. I've got 3 slides and then it will let you do the interactive bit. These are aerial images, so these are clips from the video that we have. And this, I don't know if you can see, but this bottom house is where Dorothy was found dead. Okay, so you are going to pretend that you're police officers and you're the first person that's arrived on the scene. So you've had your blues and twos, you've had all the excitement you've got there, and a bit like the bill, so who remembers the bill? You are responsible for deciding where the cordons are going to go. So that nice bit of police tape that stops all the press getting in and all the public getting right up to get their pictures of whatever's happened, you are going to decide where they go. So just to give you a little bit of background information, this is a row of houses in Portsmouth. This is the communal car park, this is the bin area, and this is a main road. If I go to the next one, it's a zoomed out image. This is a university building, but it has nothing to do with the houses. And this is a railway line. and the main road goes under the railway line, okay? So you just need to be conscious of how big you might want to make your scene. And this is just zoomed out another bit, but this is another major road. So your house is in here. So if I click on the next, you should see, can you all see just a screen and it gives you an option to draw? Is that what you can see? This hasn't come up quite as well as it should have. But if you have it, you should be able, on your image, it should give you the option, there should be a little pen, and you should be able to draw your coordinates. So if you'd like to draw your coordinates on for me, I'll give you a couple of minutes to do it. I don't know if that's going to... It might be the internet connection, because it was quite slow. It takes a while to upload. Is it working for everybody else, or is it just me? Yes. Yeah, okay. You all drawn them on? Cool. Okay. I can now see what everybody has put. So when we do this in the lectures, the students normally start having a chat with each other and pointing. There might be some giggles as to who's done what. Got some interesting shapes. Interesting. Okay, I think most of you have drawn your shapes on where you're going to put your coordinates. So next, you should be able to collaborate. And you should be able to tell me why you've put your coordinates where you've put them. So you should be able to type in a little message. Does it work? Does it let anybody put anything in? Sorry. Yeah. I should have clicked OK to let you do it, so it should. Okay, now? I should also point out that at the minute it has got your names on there, but you can, as a lecturer, take people's names off and make it anonymous. So if it's something that you think the students might not want to engage with, we can go back to that whole discussion about being anonymous. And I have the power to do that as a lecturer before the class starts. But for today, I've just left it off because I was a bit unsure about technical difficulties. I like that, a fairly random guess, that's good. That's fine. Cover and car park, closed area. Okay, if somebody's not sure what a coordinate is, that's fine, because obviously if you were a student, I would have explained everything about a coordinate, so this is just to show you how it interacts. Some good answers. Obviously then, as part of the lecture, I can go through, I can interact with the students, thank you. And I can put answers on there as they're putting the answers up as well. So we can have a whole class discussion virtually. So actually our distance learners can have the class and the lesson at the same time as the full-time undergraduate campus-based students. And I can also have a lecturer sat remotely answering some of their questions as well. So it works a little bit like live stream at times. And then we can set this up. So once I've finished the Nearpod presentation, you should be able to keep this. And we can set that up for the students to use later on in their seminars and their workshops and that sort of thing. That is the end of the presentation because I wanted to leave enough time for questions because I was conscious of the time and I didn't want to try and fit too much in. Has anybody got any questions? I will try and answer them because obviously it wasn't my unit. So. No? Oh, we got one.
It sounds like there was an awful lot of organisation involved in this.
Yes.
I'm just kind of, I'm sure you can't do it in detail, but could you just give an estimate of the sort of the investment in terms of resources and time?
It's taken us a year to produce the video itself. It is actually quite professional, I would say. I don't want to sound big-headed about that, but it did involve the professional sort of drama teams and the media people within the university. So it's quite professional. It took a long time to get the script right. I think that was part of the issue because my role is to coordinate everybody and manage them from the full-time undergraduate point of view. I had to get volunteers that wanted to be involved in this because obviously not everybody is comfortable with online learning, not everybody's comfortable with new technology. So I've had to convince some of the other staff now that this is working and we need to move forward. So we have to identify extra training as well. The thing that took the longest with the script was all of the people involved wanted different things added. We have done our best to leave a lot of things open so that other departments and other areas of the university can come and take a little snippet from it and add their own things around it. Once we got that done, the actual filming and the process itself didn't take that long. And the other thing that has taken the most time is putting all of this together on Moodle and our online course developers. So we have a team of 5 now. And they're dedicated just for our department because our department's one of the biggest in the university. So we're very lucky to have them and they have helped my colleague Helen put all of this stuff onto Moodle and make it interactive. So it's taken her about 3 months, so not solidly because she obviously has her day job and her own research to do. It's taken her 3 months to set all the lectures up and give the online course developers the quizzes and the questions and those sorts of things. And the online course developers have been working on it on and off since it was the January, so about 6 months for them to put everything together. So in total it took about a year. But we were able to do our other kind of day jobs around it. So you have to be dedicated and you have to want to do it, which is why I asked for volunteers rather than just force people to do it. Has that answered it? Any other questions?
So the technology was a bit flaky for us. Is it ever like that with the students, and does that ever put anyone off?
So far at our university it hasn't been like that because I was just a bit wary that when I take everything outside the university I'm never quite sure what the internet connection's like. I think we've been quite lucky in that a lot of our rooms have just been done up with better internet connection. We always have a backup because obviously this is something that we're trying, but so far it hasn't happened and we've been running this for about a year now, so it's kind of been a 2-year process, a year of development and then a year of running it, and it hasn't gone wrong yet. But it's just how fast the internet connection is, that's the only problem with it. So yeah, I was conscious I did have a PowerPoint backup just in case it all went horribly wrong.
And what was the answer with accordion?
If I had longer, I would have explained, but some of you have actually done a pretty good job. the thing we always tell students is with cordons, there is never a right or wrong answer. It's debating how much disruption you're going to have and what's necessary for the crime scene. So there is never really a right answer. Any other questions? Was that? I don't have my time. Sorry.
Hi. I'm quite interested to see you've got this for your subject specialist area now.
Yeah.
How could you see that could be then scaled up into other sort of areas? Would you have sort of a method that you could then share with another department? Say this is how we've done it.
Yeah. If you take the Operation Matilda and the video out of it, everything else that we've done you can use on anything. So it's just more thinking about how you can make your lectures interactive and how you can link that with other activities to link with the seminars and other things that you do. So apart from the video being very specific, the rest of it is open for anybody to try. So yeah, if you want to have a chat with me later, I can explain. Thank you.
So can we just show appreciation for the 3 speakers now this afternoon? So we have finished early.